Hello and welcome. This is Rini Das. I'm the CEO of Parker Games. We are starting a new video series for all our prospective customers and users, discussing about various products and features that we have. And along with me, we have our esteemed partner, Ken Thompson. He's a TEDx speaker and also the CEO of DashboardSimulations.com and Bioteams.com. Extremely well known in the gamification and serious games world. So welcome, Ken.
Hi, Renee.
Are you in Belfast today?
Yes, in Belfast, a nice sunny day here in Belfast, Northern Ireland.
Excellent. So I thought for our first video, I would ask you about some problem that we need to solve. And one of them is coming from our prospective customer. And what they had was, this is a customer where they went through a huge reorganization. You know, it's the world of change. And they have a completely new executive team that have come from various disciplines, and they're looking to basically make this team gel and become a high-performing executive team. And I know that you have a lot of simulation games and things like that. And I was wondering if you can help them with some of the products and work that you do.
I think I can, Renee. I have a high-performing team simulation, which is actually one of my favorites because it's a bit unusual. Normally, when I build a game, I'm the designer, and then somebody else is the subject matter expert.
Right.
But for the last 15 years, I've been working in high-performing teams. So I've written a couple of books on that. So in this game, quite uniquely, I'm the designer and the subject matter expert, where I have to wear different hats at different times, which is quite fun. So I'd be very happy to do that.
Well, so let me ask you this. How do you define high performance? You know, a lot of people talk about high-performing teams, but what are the characteristics of high performance?
I think ultimately a high-performing team must achieve its goals, and it must keep its goals aligned with what the business is asking for. It's no point achieving goals that drift off alignment. A high-performing team also, I think, uses all the capabilities of all the team members, and the team members enjoy the experience. So I would say goals stay aligned, it uses everybody's skills, and at the end of the day, everybody loves being part of a high-performing team. That would be my definition, Renee.
Excellent. So one of the things that we also, kind of see I've heard this over and over again, is when you see a high-performing team, you know it, right? But there are certain drivers and behaviors that makes a high-performing team. Can you name some of those drivers and behaviors that you have seen?
Yeah. There's a lot of them. I think one of the best ways to think about a high-performing team, I think, is not to think about business. And the best examples of high-performing teams that I come across tend to be sports teams,
right?
Music bands, or families on holiday.
That's right.
And if you think of, what are the characteristics of those teams, that first of all, everybody knows what they can count on everybody else for.
Correct.
So there's accountability. Secondly, there's good communication. If I'm doing well, I'll get a pat on the back. If I'm not doing so well, somebody will say to me. So those teams give and accept help. Also good, one of the things that can destroy a team is bad meetings. Meetings that, they say meetings take minutes and waste hours.
That's right.
So high-performing teams generally know how to run meetings properly in all sorts of ways. They have good communications practices, and when people have issues, they're not stepped over. And that's a sign of a non-performing team where the meetings are bad, nobody knows what everybody else is accountable for. If somebody's doing badly, nobody's going to tell them. If somebody needs help, nobody's going to give it to them. So I think often, really strange, sometimes people are very high performing in their teams outside work, and they come to work and they just switch the brains off. and they accept stuff in work teams they would never accept in their family or their sports team.
That's right. That's right. So, talking about the game that you have designed to sort of teach people how to become high-performing teams. What are the exact goals of this simulation game?
Well, it's an interesting game because what happens is there's a team of 10 people, and you've just become their team leader.
Right.
And you applied for the job and you were successful, but some of the other team members also applied for the job and they were unsuccessful. Right. So they're not entirely happy that you're the leader. Mm-hmm. So the first job you've got to do is a kind of change management job. You've got these 10 people, and some of them you have no history with, some of them you've slightly negative history. Right. And you've got to get them all on board. So this first aspect of the game is change management. And there's a traffic light system, so you want to get a green traffic light with every member of your team. Right. So if you get them all on board, that's only half of the story, because the other aspect is the team environment. How well are they running their meetings? How well are they communicating? How well are their team practices working? So in parallel with, and as well as getting them all to accept you as team leader and be committed to being a high-performing team member, you've got to fix their process. So you've got to do these two things in parallel. So the game lasts for about half a day. It's typically played in teams where right. The team is playing the role of the team leader. And there's a bit of what we'd call in the UK and Ireland Sherlock Holmes work at the start to try and work out
right.
what the team think of you and what
right.
the team think of the team.
Right.
And then you play the rounds, and it's played competitively. You collaborate with your partners in your own team, but there might be 3 or 4 other team members.
Right.
And that's how it works. And the other thing is then when you're not when you influence somebody, like the real world, they may influence somebody else.
Right.
So for example, the older members of the team have more experience, and if you alienate them or get them on board, they will impact everybody else.
Right.
And then secondly, there may be some younger members of the team who are very well socially connected and have a great reputation. And if you get them on board, they'll influence people on their network. So there's a kind of agent-based paradigm in it as well as moving the individuals. Each time you move somebody backwards or forwards, they will influence everybody else.
Right.
And there's a kind of osmosis effect. The other thing that's interesting is I've a lot of background in what you would call maturity models.
Right.
You know, the Software Engineering Institute,
right.
The maturity model, and I've devised a little maturity model for teams. Say there's 16 things wrong with your team. Well, there's a certain order in which it's more sensible to fix them in others.
Absolutely.
For example, you've different types of meetings. You've a weekly meeting and a weekly operational meeting, and say a quarterly strategic meeting.
Right.
Well, you should fix the weekly one first, because
right.
you're having it every week.
Right.
And the quarterly one might take longer. You could put that off a bit. So that it's, in a sense, instead of just fixing everything, you want to really build up to a base camp. You've got right. your team up to level 1. You can take a bit of a rest and then move it up to level 2, rather than just going all over the place fixing everything. So it teaches people about change management, about engaging people, about the key aspects of team that need to be fixed, about the importance of doing it in a sort of planned and orderly way. And so awesome. in half a day, you will genuinely have an experience of, you will feel you've actually gone through the toils and joys of building a high-performing team.
Absolutely, but did they see it in, in real life? They see it in reality, whatever the case, that you put in front of them.
Yeah. What we do is we will change the background story.
Right.
There's a standard story, and it's really just 3 or 4 slides. So as part of the preparation, we'll tweak the background story so it becomes contextually sensitive. The other thing we can do is the game characters automatically play themselves, but we can nominate some of the game characters as live, which
Right.
when you try to intervene with them, it tells you the facilitator is going to role play this person.
Right.
So you actually can have the opportunity to have a couple of the characters come alive, and instead of making interventions in the game, you have to prepare for and conduct an actual meeting with those. So that
Right.
makes
Right.
it a wee bit more interesting for people.
Absolutely. Ken, so I would love to hear much more about this chapter. Would you be able to show us something?
Yes, I'm going to try and screen share with you now, Renee. Just want to see if we can get that to work.
Sure.
So the simulation is called Chapter. Can you see it on your screen?
Yes, absolutely. Wonderful.
So it's called Chapter, and it's kind of like a chapter as a group rather than a chapter of a book. So this is the splash page. So you hit the green button to enter the simulation.
Excellent.
And we call ourselves dashboard simulations because we try and get all the information on one screen. That's kind of a design philosophy within the company.
Right.
So if you can see, we've got your 10 team members down the left, Albert, Betty, Cindy, right through to Julie. The traffic lights tell you how they're feeling about you as team leader. The small traffic light, the first left one, says a bit about your relationship with them, which if it's red, it's not necessarily bad. It might just mean there's no relationship.
Okay.
The little smiley,
right?
How well they're doing as a high-performing team member.
Excellent.
So at the minute, only Ivan is committed to this team in the way he needs to be.
Right.
And then the other indicator is the trend. So when you make a decision, this will go green if you made things better, or go red if you made things worse.
Awesome.
So
I'm guessing the challenge is, to get, aside from, Ivan, like, target the smiley faces that are red first, or?
Yes, and the second thing is, well, who's the most influential?
Right.
Two other things then. First of all, there's an organization chart.
Okay.
And you're actually Nick Nelson.
Right.
And these are the people in your team. So it's a pretty flat team.
Right.
The second thing is everybody has a profile.
And
if you click on it, it tells you a bit about them. And this is the Sherlock Holmes piece where it's telling you a bit about their experience, their reputation, and their networks and their attitude. So one of the things is you need to intervene with the most influential people first.
Absolutely.
And those influential people could either be supporters and they'll bring other people on board, or they might be opponents. And if you leave them there, they'll turn everybody else off.
I see.
So
I think this is really fun because the profile really helps them to sort of desensitize from their existing real team.
Yes.
And creates a role play that they can actually learn through that kind of a role play. So this is really fun. This sounds like really fun.
Yes, the people are all really caricatures. They're all people types they would recognize in their real job, but safely made anonymous. So the profile tells you two things: a bit about the person,
right?
But it also gives their observation about the team,
right?
So as well as read the profile, you find out about the person and when should we start intervening with them and what way.
Right.
Are they crucial? Are they influential? Are they neutral? Are they a supporter or an opponent? So you start working on an intervention strategy. But the last bit allows you to do a team health check. You're getting each of their opinion on the team. So, for example, Albert says, our regular team meetings do not usually have anything more than a typed up agenda.
Right.
So there's another form that you're using to, assess the meetings. So there may be something in Albert's opinion that's not right about meetings.
Right.
He's also saying the old team leader made a point of regularly reviewing the team goals to make sure they're up to date. So that sounds like Albert's saying something positive about alignment.
Right, and I think, these verbatims are extremely important for also for people to understand how they're reacting to it, right? So
Yes.
do they use this as a cue? Because it's giving them a sense of actions that they should be taking, or what kind of how they need to behave. So there's an automatic feedback loop directionally where they're going. This sounds very exciting. I think starting where we were with our prospect, who wants to look at rebuilding their executive team. I would definitely recommend them looking into this.
Yes, one of the things we always do first of all is we don't let people just start and play the game. We
Right.
force them to come up with their game plan.
Okay.
So and so there's a detective work piece first.
Right.
Who should we intervene with first?
Right.
What type of interventions will be appropriate? For example, if somebody's a supporter, you can ask for their commitment.
Right.
If somebody's an opponent and you ask for their commitment, they'll show you the door. So you come up with intervention strategies, because in each round, yes, you can only, every week you're only allowed to make 3 interventions. So you
Right.
can't be intervening with everybody. And secondly, you're doing a team health check.
Right.
So there's a couple of little forms at the bottom: team member form, team process form. So as you're playing this, you're using these forms to build up, for example, a health check of how good the team's process is.
Right.
And one of the great things at the end of the game, these forms, you take them away with you. And quite a
Okay.
normal closeout is the last hour is, now let's look at the team you're a member of or the team you're a leader of, and let's use the same forms and logic. So
Right.
that now that you've played the game, do a quick diagnosis of your current team. So you can go away, you can actually go out of the game ready to start making some moves with your real team.
So, what are the type of feedback you've got from people who have played this game as far as their learning takeaways?
I think, well, one of the things, there's basically 2 things they can do, Rini. They can make interventions with the people.
Right.
And there's about 8 interventions. Starting off very gentle, meet with a team member socially.
Right.
Ask your advice about how the team is working. Explore
Right.
what roles a team member might wish to have. And one of the things people have said a lot is there's a certain time when you can make an intervention, and if
Right.
you make it too early, you damage it.
Right.
So one of the things they go away with is a strong understanding of the fact they have to build something social with an individual before they can start to have really hard conversations. And often in the past, they might have just gone in and had a meeting with somebody and had a hard conversation without ever checking whether they had the social right to do that.
Right.
So that's one of the things that comes in, a really understanding of the importance of these different interventions, and also the importance of influence. In simple terms, you must influence, you want to work with people who you can influence.
Right.
And who have influence over others. And not every member of the team falls into that category. So they learn, very importantly, who are the people you need to work with first. And then finally, the probable thing they learn at the end is the kind of interventions you can make to improve a team's process.
Right.
Some people think teams just manage themselves, but actually there's a very, very clearly defined set of practices a team do.
Right.
A high-performing team do. And if you put in the practices, you change. The mantra is, you change practice, change habits, change outcomes. It's
Absolutely.
not enough just to influence people. You have to create the environment where they can be successful. So it's a pretty rich experience, because literally I've crammed 2 books into 4 hours. So they can go away with a real, people go away with a sense, I've actually been part of a team, and now I've made some of the mistakes that I won't make with the real team.
Right. I mean, I think this is, I mean, without pushing very academic change management concepts, it's very tactical and it's very digestible. I mean, it is something that you can repeatedly, a client can use this, as part of even their succession planning, or whenever new projects come into place, like this is something that they have to care about, because the success of any team, as you said it, is pretty much, whether they achieve the goal. And the biggest detractor are team dynamics. So this is awesome.
And most people, even managers, have no training whatsoever in building teams.
Absolutely.
And yet they've got to do it over and over again. So a really good model is the top team play this game.
Right.
That's a team of leaders.
Right.
And after that, every team member of the top team goes away to their team. Absolutely. And they play the game, then every team member of that team goes down. Right. So it does lend itself to playing it as a member, then
right.
playing it as a leader. It can be very, very quickly rippled through an organization.
Excellent. Excellent. So I think this is excellent. We will definitely promote this game as part of you being a partner. It enriches our portfolio, and I appreciate you talking about it. And people can come and see and get in touch with you. So to wrap up, I was with Ken Thompson of DashboardSimulations.com. It's all one word, .com, and I'm the CEO of Parker Games. Please come back here and watch this video about how to create your own high-performing teams. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Renee.